Welcome to Dating the Financial System, the episode where innovation meets humanity in the world of money. I'm your host, TN. And if you are tired of traditional budgeting advice that never seems to work, you are in the right place. Today, we are revolutionizing how you think about credit and cash flow with the incredible Angie Ross, a certified money coach who's helping people ditch the budget and build real wealth instead. Trust me, this conversation is going to change how you see your relationship with money. Angie, welcome to Tit Consult Podcast. I'm so excited to dive in with you. Let's jump right into it. So you've heard about that viral 2024 TikTok by Megan Boney. I'm looking for a man in finance. Well, if money were a person, and you had to play matchmaker between people and their finances, how would you describe that relationship for most people when they first come to you?
So when they come to me, so I love this question, first of all. When they come to me, it's almost like they're in a relationship with money that's like a toxic ex. So it's like their money has been kind of ghosting them. They're like, where did all my money go? I'm living that paycheck to paycheck. And then I also find that they feel very much like attached to their money, but not in a good way. And their money shows up at the worst time. So meaning they'll have a car repair and they don't have the money to pay for it. So the ex like shows up and it's like the money is gone and the ex is not helping you at all. And you're like, I just have a poor relationship with money. And when I work with them, my whole goal is to really flip the script. So we're thinking of money in a positive way and all the things that it can bring to us instead of it weighing us down. So you know that like that ex, you just want to like delete and block on your phone. We want to flip the script so they actually like their money, they love their money, and they're working in conjunction with their money. So we want to turn it into that kind of like really great relationship where you're on the same page, you have a plan, your goals are being fostered. So I really love that question, but usually when they show up, it's toxic ex, unfortunately. That's what I see a lot. And then we kind of work our way towards that really great relationship.
That's great. That's good. I can actually see how relationship is actually you block and unblock your ex all the time.
Right?
You find the middle ground. So you've been a financial educator for the past 20 years. I'm not sure if you already quit your 9 to 5, but now you are a certified coach flow specialist. So what made you passionate about the anti-budget approach that feel like a better relationship, moving from a toxic relationship to building a healthy relationship compared to the traditional budgeting?
Yeah. So I'm really passionate about this because I tried all the budgets myself. I did the budgeting apps like YNAB, nothing wrong with it, but it didn't work for me. I did the spreadsheet. I did all of that stuff. And I'd be like putting my numbers in at the beginning of the month and feeling so like hopeful. And then by the end of the month, I'd be reconciling my numbers and they wouldn't be the same. And I would not be super happy because I usually had overspent in some category. And so the anti-budget is a lot different because it is very proactive instead of being reactive. So we proactively put in the numbers that we want to reach for that month. And then we use a weekly spendable, which I know that we're going to get to, but we use one number that we need to track every week. Instead of worrying about all the numbers, we're really focused on that one number. And as long as we stay within that number, everything else balances. So one of the things that really ticks me off about budgets is like, let's say gas prices go up and people are like, oh my God, gas went up and they're stressed and all this. I'm like, well, you still have to get to work. So in budgets, a lot of the time we're stressing over things that are a necessity that we cannot control. And with money, my whole motto is like, we want to control the things that we actually have control about and the rest off of our mind. There's nothing that we can do about that, right? So with a budget, it's very, very strict and restrictive. And we're worried about all of these things that we cannot control. And with the anti-budget, the only categories that we're really trying to control are food, retail, and entertainment. And those are all within our control. And so that's one of the main things. The other thing I really love about it is it comes from a place of positivity and abundant. So instead of saying restrict, cut, it's like, what do you care about in your life? And how do we put more of your money towards those things? And so I'll give you an example. I wanted to get out of teaching. which you brought up. And I didn't know how to do that financially. And I'm like, I need to figure out a way to make that a reality. And so we used the anti-budget. We cut our costs by $2,000 a month. And then I used that money to help me get into business and to replace my teaching income. And so by doing that, I was able to get out of teaching and get into my business and leave something that no longer served me. And I would never have done that with a traditional budget because my focus was on something positive, not on just restrict. It was like, what can this money do for me? Oh, it can allow me to retire from teaching and then move into something that I really was passionate about. So the anti-budget is a totally different mindset. It's like very much proactive and it's very much positive versus restrictive and reactive.
Interesting. So instead of using budgets as damage control after we overspend, obviously, you are suggesting we use them proactively as wealth building tools?
I want it to be positive, and I want people, like when I'm restricting my spending on food, retail, and entertainment, I'm doing that because there's another goal that I'm going after. So it becomes motivational. So like my goal was to get out of teaching. So it makes it a lot easier to say, I'm not going to buy that new piece of clothing, or I'm not going to go out and golf, which I probably am. But, just saying, I'm going to restrict some of these things in order to achieve this thing that I really care about. So it becomes really focused on the things we care about and how we want more of our money going towards those things. So I'll give an example. This summer, we went on a $30,000 trip to Europe and we saved monthly for the last couple of years. And we put the money aside and it was all there in advance. And so on a monthly basis, I'm watching that vacation fund get higher and higher and higher. And I know what the goal is. And it's a really, really good experience for me and my family. And so it helps you become motivated to not spend on things that are not necessary.
Is it similar to how retailers use psychology to influence buying decisions, but you are using it to help people make better financial choices?
So really, it started with me too, and my psychology around budgets and psychology around people in general. So when people are told not to do something, they tend to want to do it. So with the budget, it's always like, don't spend here, don't spend there, don't put your money here. You're spending too much. It's like, no, 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 bad, bad, bad. And as soon as someone tells me don't spend any more money on clothes, I'm shopping online on my phone, quietly and secretly doing it, but I'm being defiant. So pretty much most humans are like that. They do not like to hear a no, and they don't want to listen to someone else telling them what to do. So that's the psychology behind it. With the spendable, essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking someone's income, I'm subtracting all of their fixed costs. So like housing, transportation, all the things that we kind of just need to survive, the boring things that we have to pay every month. Then I'm subtracting their financial non-negotiables. So that is like, if you want to invest, so it could be your TFSA, your RRSP, it could be things for kids' activities. It could be, for myself, I do a lot of golfing, so I have a golf category, vacations, Christmas, all of these things that we need some of our money to go towards. And then there's money left over. And whatever's left over, we turn that into a weekly spendable. And the thing about the weekly spendable is we haven't eaten yet. So our weekly spendable is for food, retail, and entertainment. So those are kind of the three categories that we have left. And the idea is that as long as you stick within your number, and I'll share that at my house, our number is $700 a week. There's 3 of us. So that number has been calculated through the analysis that I did on our money. And so $700 a week we get for food, retail, and entertainment. As long as we stay within the 700 or under it, everything else that we have on our financial to-do list has been taken care of. We've already allocated the money for all of our other wants. I haven't yet bought my yacht, but maybe next year. But yeah, we have all of our wants taken care of. And then what happens is we just have to worry about that one number. And so we also don't care within that number how we spend it, as long as we don't go over. So if I want to go out for a fancy dinner and spend $300, fine, we can go and do that. But then we just have $400 left for the rest of the week for food, retail, and entertainment. So it becomes about choices. And it actually feels more freeing than saying, hey, you need to spend $300 on groceries. You need to spend $100 on eating out. You need to spend this. It's very much, no, here's your dollar amount and you do with it what you want, but you cannot go over the dollar amount, or then we started to steal from other areas of our money.
Yeah, interesting. So now let's go to success story. Angie, I saw you have a client, Maggie and Jake, achieve a an 83% return on investment and pay off a debt of $11,500 in 6 months only without breaking confidentiality. What was the game-changing moment for them?
We are talking about their money and we're getting right into the numbers and we're doing it together. So everybody is on the same page. So I think for most couples, that's a big stumbling block for the majority of couples is they just literally, one person may be in charge of the numbers and the other person is kind of like hiding and not looking at the numbers. So the first thing is getting clarity on their numbers. The second thing that we did with them is they were spending a whole lot of money on convenience and takeout foods. And so when we looked at their analysis, they were spending like $1,000 a month at least on convenience and takeout foods for 2 people. So we ended up being able to trim that down and reduce that number basically in half. And so we got to use that money for debt repayment as well. So that was really good. They also had a couple of high interest debts that they had. And so we manipulated the debt structure. So instead of carrying money on their credit card, paying like 29% one of their credit cards, we were able to get them into some lower interest products, which allowed us to pay down the debt a lot more quickly. So that was super nice as well. They also used a zero balance transfer card. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they used a credit card that allowed them 0%. And so we were able to then stop the bleeding with the interest rates and start to really go after that debt and pay it down quite quickly. And so there were quite a few things. The last piece was they were doing a lot of unconscious spending. So by that, I mean, they thought they were spending X amount every month. And when we looked at their analysis, it was actually quite a bit higher. So we were able to trim some of their bill payments like cell phone, cable. They did some negotiating on those types of things. And then we were also able to reduce some of their spending in retail and entertainment. And so what ended up happening was they were able to pay down basically almost $2,000 per month towards their debt that they didn't have before.
I love that term, stop the bleeding. So many of us can relate to Maggie and Jake. Good income, but still struggling financially. Financial mental health is such a big issue. And for transparency, by the way, I'm actually one of Angie's former students. And I learned a lot, so much during class from a snowball strategy and how to make credit work with us, building that healthy relationship with credit. And it was such an amazing experience.
Can I add on to that? Because one of the tools I use is called undebt.it. And you brought up a really good point that I didn't even mention. But anytime they had a little bit of extra money, they were putting it down on their debt. And one of the things I find with people is they think they have to be putting a lot down. Like they're like, oh, if I don't have $500 or $1,000, I'm not going to bother putting the $25 on the debt this month. Well, I don't know if you remember in our classes, but when we showed just putting a very small amount of money extra onto your debts made a huge difference. It was massive. And so thank you for bringing that up because I think that's important for people to know. We get discouraged because we look at the number that we owe and it's like, oh my gosh, it seems insurmountable. But then actually they put down the amount they were supposed to. And then sometimes he would work a little bit of overtime and they were like, what do we do with the extra money? We're going to put it on the debt. And it really made a huge difference.
No, that's a great way of thinking and it's an innovative strategy, especially now that we're going to talk about newcomers to Canada. They really need that financial literacy because it's a language code, is the game, you need to play the game for newcomers to Canada, starting a credit journey. What's your innovative approach to building credit smartly? How can smart and build their credit? Even for the house, they can't have anything. Canada is not about your money, it's about your credit bureau, it's about of course. So what's the biggest myth that hurts the progress?
Okay, so I'll start with a couple of things that they should do and then I'll get into the myths. So a couple of things that they could do. A lot of newcomers don't know and a lot of Canadians don't know that you can actually, your cell phone bill will report to the credit agencies. So if you get a cell phone through Bell or Rogers and you're paying it monthly and you're making your payments, that will actually start to build your credit score. So that's a really good one. Make sure when you come here, you get yourself a cell phone from one of the big guys and it'll start to increase your credit score. The other thing that a lot of banks have that people don't realize is they will have credit cards for newcomers. So they will allow you to get a credit card, like Royal Bank does this, all the big banks pretty much. They'll allow you to get a credit card with no proof of income. That can be really hard to get if you're not a newcomer. It's really hard. You usually have to have proof of income. So they have some programs, and by getting that credit card, you can start to build your credit with that. So the other thing people don't recognize is it's usually important. You don't want to have all the same types of credit. So you don't want to just have credit cards. So having a cell phone that is actually putting your credit score up and also having your credit card is great. And then maybe once you have started to build it up, if you do those two things, within about a year to 18 months, you could actually have over 700-point credit score. So cell phone, get a newcomer credit card. Then once you are able to get a little bit higher credit score, you may now be able to get like a loan or a line of credit, because it's really important to have different types of credit. It will increase your credit score. The other thing I tell people to do is open up a Credit Karma app, which is an app on your phone. It's free, but you can see your credit score and it will give you points as to how to increase your own credit score. So it's very specific to you. And so right when you get that first like credit card or whatever from the bank, go open up Credit Karma app and check in on it every month and see how your points are doing and see if it gives you suggestions, because that's a really good way to increase your credit score as well. The myth, I think, sometimes people think you need to keep a balance on your debt to increase your credit score. I would not suggest it. It's more important for you to actually pay off your debts on time. So if you do go and get that credit card, the newcomer's credit card from a bank, make sure you automate payments. You can automate your payment so it automatically pays it over. You can do that because if you get a credit card and it's your first one in Canada and you're making late payments, your credit score is just going to go down the dumps. So you need to make sure you're making those payments on time and pay it off in full if you can. Do not worry about leaving money on the credit card, because if you leave money or a balance, you're going to pay interest. And most newcomers, typically, it's a struggle already financially. We do not want to be paying interest.
So what about that great news that we got from the Bank of Canada recent interest rate cuts? What should people with the existing debt be doing right now? Does this change your credit building strategy for newcomers, or is it any tips that how we can use it in our profit?
Unfortunately, the bad news is that it doesn't typically get recorded or reflected in credit cards. They don't usually reduce your interest rate on credit cards because the Bank of Canada reduced it, which is unfortunate, and they really should. So where you would see it is if you have a loan or a line of credit, you will see your loan or line of credit interest rate go down. So that's really nice. You also may see it if you happen to own a home that had a variable rate interest, then you would see that as well. And if you're going to go out and like purchase something in the near future, like a car or something with a big loan, you will get a bit of a break that way. So that's really nice. But unfortunately, the credit card companies don't care. And they don't have to, because they know if someone's leaving, usually when people are leaving a balance on their credit card, it's because they have no other option to pay it off with. And so they're kind of like, doesn't matter, we're not reducing the interest rate. So that's something that people don't necessarily know. I would say as well, one of my big tips is credit card, typically the average interest rate is about 23%. And if you can get a loan or a line of credit, you're usually going to get it for a lot less than that. And so if possible, I would suggest paying off the credit card with a loan or a line of credit. The other option is a zero balance transfer card, which I kind of alluded to. Basically, what a zero balance transfer card is it will take, if let's say you owed $5,000 on your Visa card, you can apply for a zero balance transfer card, and they would transfer the $5,000 balance onto a different card, a new card, and it would be 0% interest for a certain period of time. So it could be 12 months is a typical one, 10 to 15 months is what I'm seeing a lot of. And the problem with it, there's two problems. You usually have to pay a transfer fee, so usually around 3% to transfer it over. But if you were paying 23% interest, you're still better off by 20%. But the other problem is there's a whole bunch of fine print. It'll say, if you make this purchase and you don't pay it off, your entire balance is at 29% now. Or if you do this. So I always tell people, treat it like a loan. Don't treat it like a credit card. Use it, set it at the side, and just pay it off, and then don't use it for purchases. If you're doing that, it's more like a loan, in my opinion, and you want to just do it to stop the bleeding and help you pay it down a little bit quicker.
That's interesting. So now a credit is an investment tool, like already mentioned, and the question was about how to use credit as a wealth building tool rather than just for purchases. Just for going through Amazon and then do your spree So what's your innovative approach to use credit cards to build investment?
Yeah, so I have two thoughts on this. Sometimes I've seen clients come in who have borrowed money to invest, and I'm going to say like in stocks or something like that. So actual investments in the stock market. And it can work, but it is a bit risky because you're leveraging. So meaning if you put all your money into Tesla, let's say, and then something happened and Tesla stock went down, which we saw that happen, right? Now you owe the money back and now you have less stock over here. And so when you sell, you're not going to have all that money to put back in. So for people who are really risk tolerant, like if they can handle that risk, you can borrow. And the general idea, so when I've heard people talk about this, it's been like, well, I can make 7% on my investment. And let's say I'm only paying 5% on interest on the line of credit. But one thing I always tell people to recognize is that it is 7% on the investment before tax and 5% after tax. So if you're taking that money and you're using it again, and you're not in like a TFSA, you're going to pay tax on any kind of gain that you make. So a couple of things to think about. So usually when I think of borrowing to create wealth, it's usually real estate is the one that I typically see people utilizing. And so and I don't want to share all of your information, but for some people knowing, like for me, I bought an Airbnb in Mont Tremblant that we had extra money that we could leverage and put into an investment. So that was a really great idea because the price has gone up. We also rent it out regularly and make money. It covers itself. And we also have a vacation property that we can go to. I'm going on Friday, so that's exciting. But also you can buy a really good opportunity is to buy something like a duplex or a house that has an apartment in the basement that you can rent out. So again, you're putting your money into an investment, but you may also utilize it as well. So I find there can be a dual kind of use to that money. Instead of it just being investment, it's for living and for investment purposes. So it's typically going to be the real estate. That's the one for me that makes the most sense, but you do need to cash flow it, right? You need to make sure you're going to have enough because it's super stressful if you can't make your mortgage payments on people. So you need to make sure that you're going to have the money to be able to exist.
And I'm glad that you brought the beautiful home that you and your husband bought, because at the moment, the real estate market is quite difficult for anyone to, especially younger people, to get into, to buy a house right now in Canada. It's been very challenging. So how can someone restructure or rethink about financing or refinancing or just getting his finance for his first house?
Yeah. So first things first, if you're thinking of getting to your first house, there's an account called the First Home Savings Account. And it's a great way to save for your first house, mostly because they offer you a tax deduction and any money made in the First Home Savings Account is tax free. So for me, it's the best tool to utilize. And you can put $8,000 in per year and you're going to get a tax refund. So with a lot of people, if they put $8,000 in and their marginal tax rate is 30%, they get back $2,400. So you put $8,000 in, you're getting back $2,400 that you can use to further contribute to the First Home Savings Account. So that's a great tool. I also think people are having to kind of buddy together and maybe purchase something with someone else. So that's another way to kind of leverage, and because it's expensive out there, right? So that's another way that you can leverage your money and hopefully get into some kind of a property as well. With us, our first investment property I'll share was actually with myself and my sister and her husband. So we bought a place in Port Hope, Ontario, and we went 50-50. We have all the legal documents and everything is split 50-50. And that took some of the heat off of our finances. And if some kind of expense comes up, we're splitting it. So another good idea is to do that if you have someone that you trust. And then what that did was that built us a little more ability to then go and borrow for the place in Tremblant as well, because now we only owned half of that house. And so we could utilize our incomes to support another purchase. So we have a few investment properties that we've utilized our income to leverage, and both of them are cash flowing positive. So again, super important to think of it as being cash flow positive.
That's great. I actually like the idea with your sister because I was discussing with my niece. They're now all working and they are around 20 to 25. And I was telling them instead of buying all those tickets to go to Bahamas, to go to Cuba, you should actually, come together and raise that deposits. And
Yeah.
once you are there, after 2 years, 3 years, you can refinance the house and become a home buyer. All of you, even if you want to buy a duplex, rent, yeah, not bad. I'm fan of this strategy between you and your sister. So,
Yep.
what I wanted to discuss with you again about the mindset revolution was the life jacket funds and my mindset revolution. I love that life jacket fund instead of emergency fund. What the most radical mindset shift that can help client or people like me, people like us, how do they deprogram limiting beliefs about money?
Yeah. I love that you had this question. When I read it, I was like, perfect. Because I think that half of money is mindset, right? And so many people are struggling with money and it's all about, I need more, I need more. I can't make it do what I need it to do. And so when I was creating my system, they usually are called sinking funds. So it would be like a savings account for vacation, a savings account for car and house repairs, a savings account for whatever. And I was like, sinking funds sound so negative. What we're actually doing when we're saving money for these items is we're actually saving our cash flow from drowning. And so that's how I came up with Life Jacket Fund, because in essence, these accounts are actually saving us from getting into cash flow trouble. And so I like people to kind of deprogram by flipping the script on our words are very, very powerful. So just by switching it to Life Jacket instead of sinking fund, what happens in that case is now all of a sudden it's a positive thing. It's saving us. It is there for us to promote our cash flow. And realistically, it is the thing that is stopping us from getting into cash flow chaos. And so I've done that with a lot of different things, flipping the actual vocabulary. And that is because I find it super important. How we speak about ourselves is the same way, and how we speak about our money is the same way. And so we need to really take a look at our money. And I think the biggest mindset shift for me has been money is a tool for me to enjoy my life. So how do I want to allocate that to get the most enjoyment out of my life without getting myself into trouble? And when I get my clients to be able to look at it as a tool to enjoy their life, and they start to actually look about what can money do for me in my life, it becomes a lot more successful.
So for someone stuck with debt of
Mhm.
all types, who basically cannot live without the wages they check, what the most unconventional but effective first step they should take today?
Yeah, that's a tough one because we really have limited options. But I do think the zero balance transfer card offers a little bit of debt relief and interest stopping. So stopping the bleeding of the interest. So the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times people may not have the ability to get a loan. They might not qualify. They might not be able to find something else to help them with their debt. So I would say trying to get a zero balance transfer card, and then what you want to do is start to chip away at that with any extra money that you have. So even $25, even $25 a month is going to make a difference. But the big thing is we have to get out of those high interest debts. So if we're in those credit cards that are 29%, 30%, we have to somehow get that switched so that we can then go and make sure we can actually chip away at that. And what the zero balance transfer card does is when you make a payment, it goes automatically to principal because there is no interest.
Yeah.
So that's huge because most people that are making their credit card payments, the majority of their money is going to interest and it's keeping them in that cycle.
That's nice and it's such a practical advice. Where can our listener get connected with you? How they can learn more about the Money Fix Pro program? But especially, do you have any upcoming or any current program at the moment for newcomers or for anyone who is concerned by the credit and also managing their money?
Yeah. So the first thing I tell people to do is follow me on Instagram. And that's because when you're talking with someone about money, you want to make sure you're comfortable with that person. And so I like people to check out my personality, see if they like how I explain things, because there's other people out there that do similar things and you want to make sure you're comfortable. So all of my clients, when they come to me, they're comfortable opening up and talking about money. So I say, check out Instagram and it's angieross.moneycoach. The other reason I talk about Instagram is I often put up free workshops. So I offer free workshops all the time, and it's a great way to get some free information. I'm doing one tomorrow night, and I usually do them every few months. I also have a replay that I offer to people as well that they can just check out whenever they want. And so that's on my website, which is www.angierossmoneycoach. I'm very creative.com. So it's just my name, moneycoach.com. And then I offer free, this is really something that I love doing, although some business coaches have said not to do it, but I love it. I offer free 30-minute consults. So someone can come in, tell me what's going on with their money, and we can discuss things. I will give them a few tips in that 30 minutes, and then I'll also discuss my program with them and if it fits for them. And so really it's a back and forth conversation to give them a few tips and also to identify if I'm the right fit, if my program is the right fit. And then at that point in time, we can move forward accordingly. But I love those. I just had a lady on last week. She's 75. Her husband passed and she has no one to talk to about money. She's done 4 free consults with me because she just has little questions to ask and she is the loveliest. And so I've had people say, oh, it's a waste of your time. I'm like, it's not a waste of my time. This lady is amazing, right? And so she's feeling more confident because she'll just ask me a couple of quick questions and then go and do her thing. So those are kind of my favorite, actually, the free consults.
Oh, that's such a meaningful work you are doing. Now, for our Dating the Financial System theme, DFS episode, how should couple or people in serious relationship approach money conversation? What questions should they be asking each other? For our listener who are dating or in a relationships, when and how should they start having those important money conversations? That's such a meaningful work you are doing. Now, for our dating financial system thing, DFS episode, how should couple in serious relationship approach money conversation? What questions should they be asking each other? For our listener who are dating at the moment or who are in relationships, when and how should they start having those important money conversations?
So my husband and I actually did this at the beginning of our financial journey together. I love money date nights. So I actually have a worksheet that people can get from me for free as well. They can just email me or reach out to me on Instagram. And it's a sheet of different questions to ask your spouse. And what I would suggest is not asking all of them in one night. I would suggest grabbing a beverage or dinner or just sitting on the couch together and asking one question and talking through the question. An example would be like, if you won $250,000 in the lottery, what would you do with the money? So it's just to start talking back and forth. And that question tells you what your partner really cares about. So when they're talking about the 250,000, were they saying they really want to go on vacation? Did they want to do renovations? Did they want to take you on a really nice anniversary trip? What is it that they wanted to do with the money? And it starts to help you really see what your partner cares about in relation to money, because a lot of times the issues stem from different values or not lack of communication. So those money date nights were super fun. They really helped us to get a sense of what we cared about financially and get on the same page and open up the lines of communication. So highly advise those. They're fun.
That's great. They actually told me about a new dating app asking for credit score before and sign up with them. Do you think that a bad credit score is like a red flag? Oh, see. I know that's more personal, but that's fine. I love it. Because question was to describe the people who are coming to you. If you have to be, you're already a money matchmaker anyway.
Yeah.
If now you have to be formally a money matchmaker. So now, can we say that a bad or a underscore credit bureau can be seen as a red flag?
Yes, it could be, I think. And I think the reality is it also depends on your stage in life. So for me, I'm at a certain stage of life where my finances are set up. I feel good about it. If something were to happen and I would be out on the dating scene again, for me, if someone had a really low credit score, I wouldn't necessarily write them off right away, but I would want to know why. Like, what was the circumstances that led to that? Because I'm in my late 40s and I don't know. I want someone who's like secure and on the same path as me. They don't need to be rich, but I need to have like that security and that stability. I don't want to be worried about that, right? But I feel like younger people, sometimes they're building it together. So if you're younger and you're looking for a partner and their credit score isn't exactly where you want it to be, there's an opportunity there to build it together. And sometimes I think it's just lack of knowledge and understanding on how to build it. And so that's why I tell people use Credit Karma, because it tells you exactly how to build your credit score. And a lot of times it doesn't take that long to change something, like especially with young people, their credit score is going to be impacted by like one thing, right? And so it's like, it doesn't take that long to fix that up. So for me, it's not a deal breaker, but it is a red flag.
So any last word, Angie? Anything that you would like our listeners to know about your program, your different program? I know you've already mentioned, or any advice you would like to leave to our listener?
Yeah. I want to leave the piece of advice that money is not as hard as we've been made to think. So a lot of the financial institutions, even some financial advisors, depending, a lot of money experts, or when you go into your bank, they're talking in financial jargon, and a lot of times it's on purpose. And so if we actually take the time to learn about the money ourselves and find someone like a financial educator like myself who wants to actually give you the behind the scenes and tell you how it works and give you the power over your money, it can be pretty easy to actually overhaul your money and get to a much better place. And so don't get discouraged. It's about finding the right people to help lead you and mentor you. And then I have so many clients that I work with that are now just flourishing out there in the world. They don't need me anymore. They have the tools that they need and they're good to go. And so it's doable. Please don't get discouraged, because I know for a lot of people, money is a really negative thing. And I'm here to say that it doesn't have to be.
Angie, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing your expertise on innovating our relationship with money. Your anti-budget approach and witty spendable system are truly game-changing for anyone looking to build wealth and lead their best financial life. For our listener who want to dive deeper into Angie Money Fix Pro program or need support with credit building, head over to angierossmoneycoach.com. Trust me, she's the money coach you've been looking for to go from cash flow chaos to calm and confident. That's a wrap on today's episode of Dating the Financial System, DFS. We hope this conversation has inspired you to see money differently and start building that healthy, empowering relationship with your finances. Remember, it's time to stop budgeting and start innovating your financial future. I am TN from TIT Consult, and we will catch you next time.